Hello, beautiful people. How are you today? I wanted to do a part 2 on my last video because during the last production of it, some things got kind of sped up and you really couldn't understand some parts. Thank you, Ableton, for that, and thank you, hackers. Ableton is one evil-ass program. I mean, I swear, it's just really fucked up. But it's all I can use that'll work on this new computer that I have. This is their new technology for mastering. So anyways, this is part 2 of sex culture, Afro music, and fake Nazi UFOs and mind control. I'll start it out backwards because last time I started out about sex. I'll get right into the Nazi mind control, and the things that I explained in the end of the video, I'll explain them now. And then I'll get furthermore into the sex and music and stuff because it's all intertwined. Now, one of the things that I pointed out is through my studies, and I've done more readings on this subject of male manipulation and male mind control. Well, the scary thing is, people, that this first started with young men, young boys, kids. And basically what these Nazis, these Luciferians, in their sacrificial rituals and their experimentations on kids discovered was you can inject subliminal messaging, that means mind control, into the depths of the psyche during orgasm. Now, what I mean is simply this, and you'll agree if you give it a little bit of thought. Ladies, men, now when you have an orgasm, sometimes, men spend 4 minutes. That's the average, scientifically speaking. Sometimes it takes ladies a lot longer. Sometimes it takes ladies an hour, 2 hours. Depends on the woman. Every woman's different. To achieve this point of orgasm, some women, they go through life not even having an orgasm. And I'm sorry, it's your man's fault. And you need to get with someone who really loves you and start loving yourself if you're one of these women. Because women bury so much inside them, and this is a direct result of helping them not achieve this bliss. Well, back to mind control. What they discovered is simply this, and it all makes a lot of sense. Now, we all know that when we're in the act of sex, we're all in the act of sex to get to this one point, and that is orgasm. Not all of us. I mean, I'm not, because when I am in the act of sex, I'm a giver, I'm a Capricorn. I get pleasure from giving. So this isn't true for everybody, but the end part, the end result is very nice. But honestly, some people get more pleasure out of giving. That's me. But statistically speaking, we all get to that point and do this act for the end act. Now, let's slow things down for a second and let's jump to the end act of sex. Now, just suppose during that time when you get to the end of your sexual act, everything, you slow it down and you can expand this act for a time span of like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Having a 20-minute orgasm. It's insane, the thought of it. But these Nazis, through government experimentation, figured out how to do this. And it is with men. They first figured out how to do this. And they first figured out how to do this through some kind of anal implication. Now, if you understand, like, doctors and what they know about the human body, I'm sure this will make more sense to them. I'm not a doctor. Now, when you start to understand this and start to understand how open you are during this time period, you'll go for just about anything. Now, they've actually learned how to implant messages into the psyches, basically the equivalent of putting somebody under hypnotic control and telling them what to do. I mean, people have seen this on TV, seen this in Vegas, seen the power of Hypnotist. Now, the scary thing is, they've been doing this to young males for a very long time under the full disclosure of government secret black ops operations. Now, when you start to understand how deep this goes and how long this has been going on, and this is actually expanded to women because they figured out how to do this digitally, but it first started with young boys that they take off the street, boys that would come up missing, kids that would come up missing that they would train to be their governmental sleepers, assassins. Now, the perfect assassin, the perfect government agent is somebody that doesn't know that they are, or maybe somebody that they paid and trained but actually put them through this subliminal programming when they were a kid and watched their development and took them into the government and trained them and subliminally hid triggers in their psyche when they were a kid and then make them forget what they do after they do this job for them, because that is the perfect assassin. Now, the perfect assassin is someone that you can control. And basically what I mean is control, I mean absolute control. Say you have been exposed to these programs since a kid, and then you grow up, and then you get trained as a government agent, and you don't really even know because this is buried in your subconscious and they've been doing this to you for a very long time. And you get a phone call, they say a trigger word, and it's automatically implanted for you to do this, this, and this, and then forget. You don't even know. This is the perfect assassin, the perfect mind control. I mean, things like Columbine and the Batman shooting, and so many things keep happening like this, where you have these young men, these boys, that, just open fire on people and do these crazy things and swear up and down they don't remember a thing. Well, if you know about Colorado and Denver Airport, well, Denver Airport is an actual underground base. Please go online on YouTube and look up Denver Airport swastika. The airport was built in the shape of a swastika. If you don't believe me, go on Google and look at the aerial view of Denver Airport. So all of these shootings happen in Denver. There's been a lot of talk that there's a lot of mind control programs going on in Colorado. It would make sense if they were coming from Denver Airport, this underground base in the shape of a swastika. So now you are really starting to see that America has been pretty much, taken over by the Nazis that they brought over on Operation Paperclip. Now, if you understand history and understand what went on after Operation Paperclip, well, I do because I live in Texas. I'll be honest, I grew up with the son of a Nazi scientist who worked at NASA. I will give you the last name of the relocated family. It is Treadway. It is a fake government name. His grandfather was a Nazi scientist brought over in Operation Paperclip, and his father worked at NASA. He molested my friend as a child, did a lot of hideous things to my friend as a child growing up. I know because he would spend nights at my home when his dad would go out drinking and then come home and try to get at him. I saw Nazi memorabilia that was passed down from his grandfather to his father from the war and things that he kept. So these people were guaranteed Nazis. So then when we brought the Nazis over to the United States, mainly Texas, They were given jobs at government bases in San Antonio, given jobs at NASA, given jobs at Dolce, all places, all around and in Texas, Southeast Texas, the Southeast of America, the Americas. Now, we all know the Nazis escaped, going to Argentina and continue to do things with the Argentinian government. And then they secretly came into America. The ones that didn't come over in Operation Paperclip, they came in through Mexico and other Latin countries. Now, the reason why I'm really specifically focusing on this, because I really want you to understand how much control that the U.S. government has given over to these so-called scientists that should have never been brought to America, that should have never been given free range to do whatever they want in these underground bases to young American kids, because basically they never stopped their experimentation. They just continued them under the secrecy of the American government, under the full disclosure of NASA, under the full disclosure of the Aeronautic Society, because the Nazis perfected vertical lift with the Bell Project. That is Bell, B-E-L-L, like a bell that you ring. It's funny that they call it the Bell Project, because hypnotists, are known to use bells as a trigger. Now, the Bell Project, I strongly urge you to look at all the information on the internet and YouTube about the Nazi Bell Project. Basically, the Bell Project had to do with time travel and UFOs. Now, from what I understand is they perfected a magnetic vertical lift engine. Now, when you get into this energy or this sphere, the energy is vibrating and moving so fast it actually stops time. So this would explain when people are kidnapped and taken, why there is a time lapse where they experience no loss of time, but it's like 3 o'clock right when they were driving, and then boom, they disappeared and they missed like 2 hours. This would explain the time lapse, because within these magnetic fields there is no time. You're vibrating, the field is vibrating so fast, and it can move through our time peridium. There is no time. It moves faster than light. But it seems to be at a point of standing still. The Nazis perfected this in the Bell Project. This was a very long time ago, people. It is 2013. So you can imagine what they've been doing under the secrecy and the full disclosure of the American government. Now, I want to bring you to something we all know as the X-Files. Now, the American public was turned off by the X-Files when they learned that, Agent Mulder had been fighting the government instead of aliens. Because X-Files revealed it was the government, not aliens. Now, if you remember in the X-Files, Agent Mulder's father, who was a CIA agent, agreed for Agent Mulder's sister to be taken and experimented on, or they would have done this to his family. This was the agreement. Right here you have a CIA agent, which the CIA was started shortly after the Nazis were brought over to the United States to secretly go to war with all the government organizations and destabilize them, and to take full control of the United States in secrecy. That is the CIA. So you have a CIA father that agreed to have his daughter taken for experimentation. Well, in the X-Files, when Mulder first finds his sister, he finds that she's an adult, she's cloned, and he finds 3 of her. So right there you have the Nazi cloning, which the Nazis did perfect, because with Russian scientists exposing that the blood that they found in Hitler's bunker, it was cloned blood. They tested it. So Hitler had a clone, and there were rumors that the Nazis had perfected cloning with all the experimentations on humans during the Nazi occupation. Now, one of the things that I really, really want people to understand is the difference between an Anasazi Jew and a Hebrew. There's a big difference. Now, Hitler was an Anasazi Nazi Jew. Now, what took place in the Nazi movement was Hitler actually experimenting on his own people, on his own bloodline, to crack the code to cloning. Basically, this is what happened. Because you had the Anasazi Nazi Jews claiming that the Russian Jews, that the Romanian Jews were unfit. They were not sovereign Hebrews. So you had 2 sects of the Hebrews during the Nazi movement claiming, one claiming that they're destroying all Jews, but it was all a lie because Hitler was a Jew himself. His great-great-grandmother was a Jew. She blew up, Hitler blew up her town and their library to hide the fact that he had Hebrew blood. I mean, this was the very first thing that he did after the burning of the Reichstags. Now, he burned the Reichstags because it's the same thing that Bush, and Bush is also an Anasazi Nazi Jew, the same thing Bush did during 9/11 because he was going to get impeached. Now, the questions you should be asking yourself is not who did 9/11, but what happened during this process after. Now, it has been proven that people will surrender their liberties, their freedom, everything if they are scared. Hitler burned the Reichstags and told the people that it was communists that did this. I'll protect you. He promised the people all these things, and they surrendered all of their freedoms to Hitler and the Nazi movement. And we all know what happened. Again, 2000, Bush does the same thing as Hitler, the burning of the Reichstags, and the American people turned to Bush after he stole the elections with the help of his brother Jeb Bush, where it took 3 to 4 days to count the votes, and Jeb is head of Florida. Florida is the Disney state. Walt Disney was a Nazi enthusiast, hired Nazis when they came over on Operation Paperclip. Also, Disney is the worst in subliminal messaging and programming to our kids. You can look on the net and type in Disney subliminal messaging, Disney Nazi, and see how many things and see how much literature comes up on this. So then, after Jeb Bush fixed the election, Bush was supposed to be impeached on September 12th. The black reparations lawsuit was supposed to be filed on September 15th, and none of these things happened because of September 11th, where these Nazis attacked America with the help of their Aryan Brotherhood. Now, what most people don't understand is the fact that the Anasazi Nazis and a sect of Muslims are all working together. Because if you study the history of Arbusto Energies, this is a Bush company. The largest investor in Arbusto Energies was Osama bin Laden's wife's father, and still is, an Arab. Now, one thing that the Nazis and the Arabs do have in common is taking people and enslaving them. If you don't believe me, listen up. Now, Arabs, sheiks, Muslims, they have harems. The rich ones, you know. Some of these harems range from 20 to 50 women, and that's for one man. Well, these sheiks have huge castles, and they have sons. So imagine how many different harems that they have in a castle. It's a lot of money to keep these harems and keep these women and to feed these women, you know, and to do all the things that they wish to do to these women in secrecy. This is their tradition, and this is what they do. Then on the other hand, you got the Bushes that are Anasazi Nazis that have been doing secret testing on women and kids for a very long time. All of this is human slavery, kidnapping women and children. And then you have the oil business, the control of the oil trade, the control of the heroin trade. Then you have the inner war within the Muslims that's controlling all of this. So now you see the common ground that they meet on. I'm not talking about all the Muslims are in on this, because one thing I would like to bring your attention to is Malcolm X and what happened to him in the Nation of Islam. After he found out the so-called Honorable Elijah Muhammad was raping young women, he didn't want to have anything to do with the Nation of Islam. And he went to the real Mecca and learned about the real Islam, not the Nation of Islam, the revamped teachings, the New Age Islam teachings. So there was a difference. He really went to Islam and got educated, and then he came back to the United States and started to try to educate his brothers about the difference between the Nation of Islam and the difference between the sheiks and the Shiites and all of the internal religious wars in the Muslim world. So what happened to Malcolm X? He got killed. So now you really start to get the big picture of things and control and the internal war that has been going on, the secret war that has been going on right in front of our very eyes. Now the disturbing thing is the things that they are doing to kids in secret, to hide it away from the general public, the covert mind control that can basically be done with a push of a button. That means you could pick up a phone. That means you could be sent an email. That means someone can use a silent weapon to beam a certain frequency and trigger words into your psyche when you sleep. The technology is endless. I strongly urge you to look up something called silent weapons. I'll post the link up under this video so you can see the video that they actually did on this. It is called Silent Weapons. It's very diabolical, and it's been around since the 70s. Just like Operation Paperclip, just like Project Phoenix. It's 2013. Now, one of the things that I'd like to address is what's been going on with the Pope and how the Jesuit Nazi Pope has been caught and has been exposed that, again, young boys. Again, in Project Montauk, young boys. Again, it's always taking kids. Now, do you understand when you get into magic, the levels of magicians and who they are? Well, the first level of magician is a priest. And the last level of magician is sorcerer, wizard. But the first level is priest, meaning a priest can cast spells and does alchemy. Now, if you want to look this up, you can look up levels of magicians, levels of alchemists. It'll give you the levels. It goes from priest, apprentice, warlock, witch, and on up to, sorcerer and wizard. So then when you get into what they've actually been doing with kids, it should be nothing new to you. I mean, we've heard stories all our lives, stories like Hansel and Gretel, what witches do to kids. But now you're really starting to see that, there may be some validity behind all these stories and all these movies that Disney's put out that's, about these witches going after kids. So now you really start to see the truth unfold. And then when you get into all the subliminal sex messaging that they put in everything that we watch, everything that we listen to, all the things that feed on our psyche, I mean commercials, I mean everything that we watch and see, everyone knows sex sells. But have you ever asked the question, why does sex sell? Because sex is sold on basically one connotation, one thought, one, how can I put this? One gratification on a feeling. And that feeling being the end product of sex. And I explained to you earlier in this video what that is. So when you think about sex, you subconsciously think about the end of sex. And then everybody wants that. Everybody wants to feel good. Everybody wants that feeling. Everybody wants this and this and this. I mean, we men, they go to clubs, they buy women drinks. If you're rich, these men take women around the world to get this one end result. That's sex. Then you have, car auto sales with beautiful women on cars, and men buy these cars thinking that they'll get these women if they have a car like this. And ultimately, if they get a hot woman like this, they'll be able to have sex. This is the society that we live in that is surrounded a subculture on sex. Music that we listen to, it's a lot of it, especially rap now, is completely degrading to women, putting them in a place of submission. A submission to what? Submission to degrade themselves so it'll be easier for men to have sex with them, because they don't want women feeling good or feeling pride or feeling that they don't need to settle for bullshit. Just have a few drinks and this man will come over and they're playing your song and you're feeling all good, and hey, let's go home and have sex. This is the society that we live in today, and now that I explain it to you like this, it's probably causing feelings inside you to not really sit too well with it, but majority of the public is guilty of this, because hey, what else is there to do than go to the cool club or go to a rave or go to a party and have a few drinks, and God, I hope I meet somebody and don't have to go home alone. This is the meat market. This is the sex fest. I mean, I watched it all my life growing up as a DJ and an entertainer. I've seen some things. I mean, I've even seen people having sex in the club while I'm DJing right in front of me. I've seen crazy things in the club all my life. And this is the sex culture, and this is the culture that the Nazis have perfected, have brainwashed us into accepting, and not for us not to have any true respect for our soul. Our body is a temple. It should be respected no matter what. But what if you infiltrate the core of that temple, which is the mind, and then you have the mind thinking that it is okay to do these things because everyone else around you is doing this? It is the cool thing. It is the in thing. It is the it thing. Well, in Operation Black Desk, it is the study of the Afro-American culture. I'll also post the video exposing what Operation Black Desk is under this video. Operation Black Desk came about because the FBI really saw a problem with the Black Panthers. They really saw a problem with the Afro-American culture. Now, if you don't know the story about the Black Panthers, I'm going to tell it to you in a nutshell and why they really started. Black Panthers started shortly after the Civil Rights Movement. That's when the black people started getting together. Afro-American people, because there is no black people technically. The Afro-American people started getting together and they wanted their rights, because after the Emancipation Proclamation, which they were not freed anyway, because to emancipate means to transfer ownership to another establishment. This is what your birth certificate and straw man bond is. When they were starting to realize that they were still slaves and they didn't have any rights after the Emancipation Proclamation, they started to march on Washington. They started to gather together. Well, in California, in Oakland, in San Francisco, where the movement really was starting to take off, they really started to go in and beat, kill, rape, and maim the Afro-American public. So the people that were doing this were the police, government officials. I mean, if you're an Afro-American and you have cops coming in, beating you, raping you, taking stuff from your homes, coming in doing whatever they want, taking you, putting you in jail without any charges because you're part of the Civil Rights Movement. When you have this happen and you can't go to the police to protect you, what are you going to do? You're going to start protecting yourself. So this is what the Black Panther movement actually did. They started protecting their own people. They started educating their own people and telling them to get police badges. Don't engage with these men. Learn how to talk to them. Learn the law. Learn your legal rights. Learn how to outsmart these pigs. But unfortunately today, these Afro-American men are these pigs now. Because that worked, and with Operation Black Desk, which was started during this time to infiltrate Afro-American societies and to understand Afro-American societies, they took it over from within. They had other Afro-American men sell out their own culture and become black spies, working for the FBI and CIA, taking tabs on their own people and telling them how to destabilize these organizations from the inside. This was literally the study of the Afro-American culture, music, writers, everything that we do, even what time we take a shit. They used Operation Black Desk to kill Malcolm X, to kill Martin Luther King, to destabilize any positive black movement there was. Because the Nazis came over and they just couldn't have this. I mean, they're racist. So please get educated on Operation Black Desk. It is kind of hard to find information about it, but it does exist, and it exists even today. I mean, these Nazi FBI, CIA people know more about the Afro-American culture than you could possibly fathom. They know more about our music. They know more about how to make our music than you can possibly fathom. One thing that they discovered was you can get anybody to go for anything if they believe it's the end thing. This is one thing that, is made prevalent in the black culture, in the Afro-American culture. If they think it's the end thing, they think it's the cool thing, if they think it's it, like Coke, the Nazi company, they'll go for it. They just want to be in. They want to be down. They want to be in the niche of things. They want to be up with the groove, up with the new music. Be cool. Don't be an outcast. Go with the flow that everybody else is going with. But the thing is, through Operation Black Desk, the government learned how to make a puppet out of the Afro-American culture and make the Afro-American people go with the flow, like go with the flow with Kanye West and Jay-Z, who sold out with the Illuminati, the Anasazi Nazis, because yeah, they need the black people. The Afro-American people aren't going to follow someone say, like, I don't know, Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley was great, but there was plenty of other people like Michael Jackson and everybody else that could dance and sing better than him. But Elvis Presley, for the general public, who was actually taught to play the guitar by an Afro-American man, taught to dance by the Afro-American culture, he was great for the so-called white public, because here you had a white guy that danced and sang like he was Afro-American. And then they gave him the king of rock and roll, the king of pop, Elvis Presley. Afro-American culture, Operation Black Desk. Now, when you get into how Elvis danced, the move of the hips, and how so many, so-called upper class, white class America was so outraged by Elvis because of his hip movements, where did he get that from? Afro-American culture. These are things that they didn't want to see. These are things that, when you dance and when you're moving your hips, it makes you think of what? Sex. Now, when you're in the club, now I know because I grew up dancing and I lived in San Francisco for a long time. And if you can't dance, you don't meet the ladies. You don't get hit on. You don't get picked up. But if you can dance, if you can move those hips, sky's the limit. I mean, if a lady's looking at you and seeing your moves and seeing you move your hips like you do, and they thinking about one thing. How is he in bed? I mean, let's get real, people. This is dancing. This is sex. So in a nutshell, this is what Elvis Presley represented that outraged the American public when he first stepped onto the scene. Because black people have been dancing like this and doing this, in their back outhouses and secret private parties on the Chitlin circuit for a long time. And Elvis Presley took it to the public. So it's okay to have black men doing this, but then when you had a white man doing this, taking it to the white public, it took the world by storm and everybody turned their nose up at it at first. But then the ladies went crazy. So again, you have music, sex, control. And now I hope you're really starting to see how far the government has gone with Operation Black Desk and the control of America through the study of Afro-American culture. Because our minds, our culture is the hardest to control. Why? Because simply they made us strong. They bred us with the strongest of the strong. My people survived on ships for months at a time, chained up, laying down. And then they came over and mixed with the sovereign Indians, mixed with the Nubians that were already here. They mixed in all the cultures, the Afro culture, the dark-skinned Afro sovereign culture, and the Indians from India that were here also, that were warring with the Moors that were already here, the Nubians that were already here, and they just mixed everybody in and wouldn't allow anybody to read. and stomped on Afro-American culture and just took it from us. And then the Indians that went with them and signed the treaties and got them reservations, they poisoned them. Gave them blankets. Poisoned their water. And then took their land after they died off. These were the American treaties for the Indians. I am mixed with all of these cultures. And mixing all of these cultures, they created something that they could not control. Something that they didn't anticipate on. Something that is the best of the best of the best, because they bred us to be the best of the best of the best. So they decided to study us for a long time and to figure out how to control our minds. Because if you can control our minds, you can control our music, you can control what we do, you can control anything. Now again, you have Jimi Hendrix that revolutionized rock and roll. You have Chuck Berry started rock and roll. You have blues musicians that started bluegrass, and then bluegrass turned into country after it got exposed to white culture. Then you have hip hop. That was in our time, and more Afro music. Then you have drum and bass jungle, which came from the Jamaicans of the UK. The first recorded actual jungle song is Concrete Jungle by Mad Professor. Listen to it on YouTube. It's actual musicians, and listen to the syncopation. That is considered the first actual jungle song. So again, Afro music, Afro culture. Then you have Juan Atkins and Derek May that created the foundations of house and techno from Detroit, that got exposed to Europe through their Depeche Mode remix, which a lot of Germans, are brainwashed to think, oh, they started techno. No, you didn't. Came from Detroit. And then people think house came from New York. No, it didn't. House didn't come from New York. House came from Detroit. Because the Motor City was stomped on when their plant was closed, and the Afro-American culture needed something. So they fell back on the one thing that they always do when we are slaves. We sing. We make songs. We sing, we sing the blues. It's what we do. So they created techno. So now you really get a true picture of what has been going on, what has been secretly being studied throughout all of our culture and being fed to us to control the Latin culture, to control the so-called white culture, to control the European culture, to control the Afro-American culture. Because these Nazis knew if you can control the minds of Afro-Americans, you can control the minds of everybody. Project Black Death. Now I'd like to leave you with the whole UFO conspiracy and point out a few facts. Aliens have been here for a very long time. The word Mayan means illusion. The Mayans, their culture, their buildings are still here. But no one knows what happened to the people. It's like they just disappeared. The word Mayan means illusion. So we just don't know. But we do know there's a culture that predates even the Mayans, that were at war with Mayans, was the Nubians. We call them Nubian Wars. You see evidence of their travels throughout the world. They were the first people in France. They were the first people in Easter Island. Thus their statues, these stone heads. And when I say France, because there are fossilized arrowhead stones that you can even find in the center of Paris that were old Nubian Moor fishing villages. And this is why the Nazis came to Paris, France, and stomped on that culture, because legally speaking, the only people that would have the legal right to own any of Paris or where any of these stones were found were sovereigns. It's meaning sovereign French. Aboriginal French would only have the legal right to own France. But the Rothschild Nazis own more of France than any Frenchman. Why do you think this is? Why do you think the 13 bloodlines did this? Because France was a huge Nubian Moor colony. And the stones I found in the Bastille prove this, because they're from an old fishing village that predates the Bastille Fort. Now, the Nubian Moors were the first world travelers from all over the world. They're sovereign Aboriginal people. Now then, when you get into, they predate Mayans, and very little is known about the Nubian Moors. But for all of you that think a Moor is a Muslim, if you call a Moor a Muslim, you will get slapped. The first Muhammad was a Moor. Before the Muslim religion was created, the first Muhammad was Afro. And then the second Muhammad came along and changed everything, and he was Arab, which the word Aryan is Arab in descent, the first Aryans. So this is the war in the Muslim community. This is why it is forbidden to show a picture of Muhammad, because you might show a picture of the first one or the second one. So they just absolutely forbid for a picture to be shown of him. So for you uneducated Muslims, get educated. Your war in between your people is very old, and it has to do with the Afro Muslims and the Aryan Muslims. And the Aryan Muslims have harems. The Aryan Muslims are with the Anasazi Aryan Nazis. Malcolm X found this out. They killed him. So then when you get into the truth about what has been hidden from the general public, and under the full disclosure of these fake UFOs, well, aliens have been here for a long time, people, throughout our history. Okay? If they were going to chop us up and experiment on us and do all these things, they did it a long time ago. Why in the 80s, after the Nazis get brought to the United States under Operation Paperclip, it gets prevalent? In the 70s, it is prevalent that people start getting kidnapped by so-called aliens. When these Nazis perfected hypnotizing people, brainwashing people. Yeah, okay, they have UFOs. Unidentified flying objects. Doesn't mean they're aliens. But we will consider this to be alien technology. Why? Because it's not introduced to the general public. And we don't have huge UFOs where we can get on them and travel from Texas to California in 20 minutes. Well, you can chalk that up to the government lies and the Nazis that work at NASA that hide the truth about outer space. I will post videos exposing secret space and the truth about the Nazis and the secret space program and what they did to Russia and what they did to America with these Nazis that the Russians wanted, Nazi scientists that America wanted, and then they started the space war, but secretly the Nazis were secretly in control of it all. So then when you get into the truth about what has been exposed to the general public, they basically feed you lies on TV. They basically give you shows like Stargate and say a Stargate isn't real. They basically tell you that aliens come thousands and thousands of miles to kidnap you, to cut up your cattle, and to do experimentations on you. Well, let me tell you in English what it is. They take you, they hypnotize you, brainwash you, put microchips in you so they can spy on your thoughts, so they can spy on your brain. The RDIF chip was made by IBM. IBM is the company that was solely responsible and the reason why the Hebrews had to have tattoos on their arms, because of the IBM hole punching machine that the Nazis were using to keep control and track of every single Hebrew slave. Now it's 2013. IBM has a subsidy company that makes the RDIF chip. A chip that's in your passport, in your IDs, and they want to put it in all the products you buy. They want to put it in your clothes that emits a radio frequency. Same as your cell phone, the same as your wireless computer, but it's microscopic. And then in the 80s, they said they were running tests for people that were scared that their kids would come up missing. Oh, don't worry. If your kid comes up missing, they got a microchip in them and we can find them. Well, in the 80s, it was the Feast of the Beast where they really started kidnapping and taking children and doing sacrificial rituals to scare all of the United States. And then they say they're going to give you this microchip technology, and a lot of parents did accept it because they were afraid for their kids. Just like the burning of the Reichstags and 9/11. Oh, don't worry, I will protect you. Fear. Put this in the public, they will give you and surrender to anything. So when you get the big picture of what has been done, and they said it's aliens, well, the only alien thing about this is how this whole concept is alien to the general public. Why would aliens come and do this to us? Aliens don't need to stick a microchip in our heads to keep track of us, or to maybe listen to our alpha wave thoughts and catalog us like cattle. Aliens don't need to do that. They're psychic, they're telepathic. We only use 4 to 6% of our brain. I know there are plenty of cultures throughout space that use more, so they don't need this childlike technology, spy-like technology, this tagging technology. And then they come and cut up our cattle? What's up with doing that? Monsanto's, huh? They need to know about our food. Cows are essential to food. It's milk, beef, they're in everything. So if you can control the cattle and experimentation on the food, don't tell them what they're doing putting in the food. Nanotechnology, I mean, the sky is the limit. But due to Monsanto's, we know it's poison. So then you have plenty of stories and movies talking about the anal probing. Well, I revealed that in the beginning of the video. The Nazis learned how to prolong the orgasm through some kind of anal manipulation. Prolong the orgasm, make it last 5, 10, 20 minutes. The human, the subject, is open. Open for what? Programming, conditioning, subliminal messaging. When you have your orgasm, you'll go for anything. I mean, I already stated, men spend hundreds, some even millions, to get with women. If they have the money, they'll spend anything to to get with that beautiful woman. I mean, it's been proven. I mean, men spend hundreds of dollars going out to clubs, buying women drinks, trying to take them home just to have sex. And men do this ritually every weekend. And women go for it. How much money do you spend when you go out to clubs on drinks and trying to get with women or men, or trying to find somebody to go home and sleep with? Just to have sex. What, you think these Nazis aren't going to spend millions and billions and billions of dollars to control you to do this? Now you see what is not so alien to me. I am Zakaos. I'm a poet, I'm a writer, I'm a painter, I'm an artist. I'm the last of my kind, a b-boy that has been experimented on, that has been exposed to Project Phoenix and silent weapons, that has had his girlfriend taken from Romania when I lived there by these same Anasazi Nazis. Because it's what they do in Eastern Europe, the female cartel. I've seen it all. I've been a part of it. I've been exposed to government agents and Interpol and international agents trying to figure out how they do exactly what they do. Well, this video is simply going to help these agents and everyone else understand that it's mind control, and even the agent or the person next to you is probably maybe subject to it and they don't even know it. So have a good day, and never forget the things that are going on with the Pope, the things that are going to be happening really soon, because March 25th, 24th, there's supposed to be something really great happening, the unification of the God mind. So supposedly what people are saying. All the things coming to light that they did in secret, all the things that they've done in secret, will be known, will be shown in ways that we can understand it, so it is secret no more. Yeshua said he does nothing in secret, simply because he is a teacher, a vessel, here to teach you to do what he does, simply because he wants you to become more than him. If you follow his words to the doctrine, you will become more than he is, more than he was, because he is steadily evolving. We are steadily evolving. But one thing this should tell you is, we are not following his teachings to the doctrine. The Pope isn't. These priests aren't. These prophets aren't, because no one on the face of this earth has done even 95% of what he did. If they did, where are they? Where is their religious order? Well, unfortunately, this religious order hunted what we know as the fish for 300 years. And then the fish became too powerful. And then Constantine, the Hindu pagan, the one that started the Roman Catholic Church, incorporated the fish's teachings into what we know as Catholicism. But never forget, the fish was around for 300 years, and it continued to grow. 300 years. This is 300 years after he walked. 300 years it continued to grow. This was an idea of a resurrected man. So the Luciferians, the Nazis, knew this. And what do? They steal, they flip ideas. Nazism. How long has it been around? How long has this idea been around by this man, this Antichrist named Hitler? It's an idea. Hasn't been 300 years. A lot less. And they killed way more people than anyone could fathom since this movement has begun. I'd like to leave you with this: an idea doesn't die. But I pray to God the Nazi and Luciferian Freemason Anasazi Nazi bullshit Aryan Arab Muslim dream does die really soon, because they make so much money off the backs of stolen dreams of children and women. Have a blessed day. Peace.